Good morning and welcome to the Business Update segment. I am Clement Yabankwe, your host. We want to wish you all Happy New Year. I know you really enjoy your Xmas season, but today is going to be a matter of business. Today we are going to have the discussion on issues surrounding our economy. Particularly, it's going to be a discussion on the economic implication of Mahama's plan to abolish some taxes, as you know, e-levy, betting tax, emission levy, and COVID-19 levy. So this is a discussion we are going to have because he said it as one of his social contracts that within 120 days in office, particularly 90 days, he's going to abolish such taxes. But today we have in the studios of Clock TV, an economist, a chartered financial accountant, and also a PhD finance candidate in the person of Mr. Martin Ohene Enim. He is also a managing partner of Pinnacle Legacy Partners. Yes, that is a consulting firm for financial related issues. So good morning, Mr. Martin.
Good morning, Clement, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, sure. So,
Mr. Martin, we know we've heard of the issues surrounding the president's plans to abolish certain taxes, and they call it nuisance taxes. Yeah, but before we get into your take on it, what at all is nuisance taxes?
They are taxes that are distortionary. When we say they are distortionary, they affect production, they affect consumption, they impact the global economy. So they don't engender production, they curtail investment, they prevent employment, and do not allow productivity to occur in the economy. They also inhibit growth. So those taxes that are nuisance are one that do not engender productivity, one that does not engender growth, investor confidence in the economy, and also help to destabilize the economy. So those taxes are called nuisance because they are distortionary to the many economic agendas that are necessary to spur the economy to go forward.
So if they are nuisance, as you've explained, then why the introduction of such taxes?
Yes, sometimes we miss the reasons why taxes are imposed.
Okay.
Sometimes when the tax becomes distortionary, then you need to look at it so that you correct it. Tax is to spur growth and investment. So if the tax is not achieving those objectives, then they will call it that they become nuisance.
Okay.
They are not helping the economy to grow. So it's important to look at those tax measures and then review them and then take them, if possible, so that to engender, particularly when you look at the state of your economy and where you want to drive the economy to in terms of the cost of living, in terms of employment, in terms of productivity. If you look at those tax measures that you have, it is important to do a review, a post-evaluation of those tax measures and see whether they are achieving the set objectives that you had in the earlier part when you impose them. So currently, some of the taxes, as mentioned by the new government, as per my technical and competence that I have in the area, I believe those taxes are nuisance at this stage, and they are distortionary. For the economy. So it is important we look at them and review them for the interest of the overall economy as we want.
Okay, I think you've really answered the next question. So what is really your take on the president's plan to abolish such taxes within 90 days in office?
Yes, you see, when you look at this tax, I've already mentioned that they are distortionary in nature. The reason why we need to remove those taxes is one, you see, many of those taxes.
Meaning you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
So look at, they are inflationary in nature. They increase the cost of the basic food items that we have. For example, the COVID levy.
Okay.
The COVID levy is an indirect tax. The e-levy is an indirect tax. So when you go to any grocery, and you go and buy items in any mart, when you look at the invoice that comes out, you see some tax component, you see COVID levy there, you see E levy there, and you even see the standard VAT rate there. Now, all these things are adding to the cost of the original item. So it means that they increase the cost of the basic food items in the shops that we go and buy those things. So they tend to trigger inflation. So it is important that where we are as an economy, where everything is scattered, and you want to engender hope and so create the needed growth and productivity and employment that you need, how can we take off those taxes for consumers to spend more, for industries to give them some respite. Their cost of living, cost of production should go down, so that those investors, those number of people, if you are producing more, then if we're employing 2 people, then we can do 3, we can do 4, because our cost of production is down. We can produce more than we employ. Also, investors are looking at the tax climate of every economy before they invest. So when we see that when new government has come, their tax measures are one that are encouraging investment. They are reducing taxes. They are reducing the cost of the basic inputs that they will need to be able to produce. If that is the case, then you see foreign direct investment coming into the economy, which will support the kind of productivity and employment that we need. So for me, conclusively, these tax measures will help the economy. It will reduce cost of living.
Okay.
It will lead to increase in productivity.
Okay.
It will reduce cost of production,
okay,
and then overall, an increase in employment.
Wow, that's so amazing. You made mention of the fact that we are in a situation where our economy is not really good. So the point is, if the economy is no good, we need some kind of revenue to be able to make sure things really work out there.
Yeah.
And the e-levy, as way back 2022, gave the government 611 million Ghana cedis. In 2023, it gave us an amount of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. Looking at such an amount of money, even in 2024, projection is that we are expecting an amount of 2.64 billion Ghana cedis. And you scrapping off all this, don't you think there's going to be a gap between revenue and also expenditure?
Yes, I'll answer this question in 2 ways. Okay, now, one thing that we tend to be doing as a country is we tend to champion revenue mobilization and don't look at the other side of the equation, which is expenditure rationalization.
Rationalization.
Or expenditure cuts.
Okay.
So you cut the expenditure so that you can live within your means. Do you understand? For some of the expenditures are wasteful. I don't want to repeat the same. We know what has happened in the past. Administration, cathedral, and many of the projects that have not even been done, and the wastages, the corruption that engulf. So if you're able to terminate corruption, you are able to make judicious use of the resources that you have. You may not need to mobilize the extent of revenue that you need to finance wasteful expenditure. So I'm very happy with the pusher and the signal the current government is sending to the economy by reducing the size of ministries, I think from 30 to 23. So you can imagine 7 ministries are gone. So that savings is more than the revenue generations that we are making from what's the name? Those tax measures those tax measures.
Don't you think that these 7 ministries gone? Actually, they'll be functioning. There'll be other expenditure they are going to incur. Is it the fact that the ministers are being scrapped off? Because if those ministers are scrapped off, we understand that the kind of expense that will go to the ministers, being its vehicle and stuff, have been scrapped off. Yeah. But these ministries will still be existing, but they won't be in the name of ministries. So what do you think the government should do, even after scrapping off this ministry, or from these 7 ministries off? Because we know previously in government or presidency machinery, way back 2017, an amount of over 4 million Ghana cedis was projected there. When it comes to 2017, it was an amount of 1 million Ghana cedis. Coming down to, as we speak now, we have an amount of 1 billion Ghana cedis specifically for presidency. Right. So don't you think that after scrapping of this ministry, 7 ministries off, we need to take a critical look also at the aspect of presidency expenditure?
Well, that's very important. You see, the overall push out of the government, not only on ministries, across board, in all areas of the economy, is to cut expenditure. You see, that has been a problem of the past government. Yeah. We were on a trajectory of expenditure. And when you look at the IMF program that we signed, it was very, very, very clear in the program that what brought us here is fiscal and debt vulnerabilities. When we talk about fiscal and debt vulnerability, that means we were overspending, and then because we needed to spend, we went to borrow because we needed more money. Our revenues were not enough. So we went to borrow. So expenditure has been our problem. So it is important that when, as an economy, we look at both the revenue side and the expenditure side. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
So whilst we are mobilizing revenue, a critical look must be put to that of the expenditure cut. And that must not only be on the ministry, it's on the overall fiscal pusher that the government must put.
Okay.
I'm very happy with the kind of comment the finance minister designate made yesterday.
Yes, so exactly. That's what we.
And he was very clear He was very clear that what they'll be looking at mostly is to cut expenditure. And that has been our problem. And IMF has stated it in their program that we signed on.
Okay. As you said, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So we have a video of the finance minister yesterday during the VETED, and let's play so that viewers will take a critical look at it and what he said, even in response to this very levies we are talking about.
Right.
So producers will get that on the screen shortly.
In the medium term, it is my vision, when approved, to increase the revenue from 13.8, tax revenue from 13.8% of GDP to about 16 to 18%. That will be able to compare ourselves to our peers. I believe the potentials are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Yes, we have obviously announced that we are going to scrap certain taxes. We'll stick to just that. But it doesn't also mean that we don't care about the revenue. We care about the revenue. And we will have to do more on revenue. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Some of the taxes out there are not bringing in the revenue that it should. For example, the betting tax is bringing in less than 50 million Ghana cedis a year. It's a nuisance tax. Scrapping 50 million Ghana cedis will not mean anything in a way that will affect the economy if you are to adjust, particularly from the expenditure side. I mean, the noise with the betting tax and all does not comprehend the imposition of such a tax. And so I believe that scrapping such a tax will not necessarily affect the forward march of the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Martin, that's what the finance minister said yesterday during the VETED. But before you respond to this, on Facebook, Godfred Adam said that considering the current state of the economy, I think scrapping of these taxes is going to have a negative impact.
Yeah.
Do you really agree to that?
I disagree. You see, this is we should get this clear. There are three key economic agents of every economy, okay? Consumers, investors or producers, and government. So it depends on where the resource will go. So if the government is taxing the consumer and taxing the producer, it means that the government wants to champion growth in the economy. The GDP of the economy will be largely influenced by the government.
Okay.
Now, the government can also choose that, no, I will not tax the people. Let the people rather drive economic growth and the GDP, so that the private sector, which we already know is the engine of growth, the taxes that were supposed to go to government, that they will use to spend into the economy, they will rather leave those monies with the producers or the investors and the consumers, so that they will rather spend in the economy. So when government tax consumers, it doesn't mean that it is only government that can influence economic activities in the economy.
Okay.
The other economic agents like consumers, producers or investors, if government does not tax them, that money it's in their pocket.
Yes.
And they can then invest in the economy, they can then spend, and that will drive productivity and economic growth.
Okay,
yes.
okay. So as we said, the finance minister designated, because we are yet to receive his approval.
And also, Clever, let me make this additional point.
Okay.
You see, what we have done over the period is where government is influencing the GDP of the economy. Now, it is important that we provide the climate necessary for private sector to drive, because they are the engine of growth. They recruit the young guys that finish school, the youth that finish school. Yeah. So if government, we are channeling all the resources to government and denying the available resources to the private sector, which are the engine of growth, that will hamper growth, and that will hamper employment and the youth unemployment that we have in this country. So the government has looked at it. The fiscal measure or the position is that, let me rather support the private sector, 24-hour economy. Let me give them some rebates on their utility bills. Let me give them some liberation, relief on the VAT, on the COVID levy, so that they will rather invest and champion productivity. Okay. I get the point. Yeah. The government has demonstrated that by also saying that they are going to cut down expenditure on their side. So those monies rather that they would have needed through those e-levy, this COVID, I don't need much revenue because I've cut my size from 30 ministries to 23. So the additional revenue that I would have needed to support these 30, or at a point in time, we have 123 ministers.
Yes.
Now, this government is only asking for 60 ministers. Yeah. So that means there's a savings about 63 ministers. And this money is, you would have needed the e-levy, you would have needed the COVID levy, you would have needed the betting tax. But the current government said, no, I will run a simple size government. So the additional revenues that I would have needed, no, I don't need it. Let me rather give rebates, relief to the consumer. The economy is in a state where income levels are very low. They are paying COVID levies, they are paying a betting tax, the youth are unemployed. Why do you impose such taxes on them? That do not engender confidence in the economy. I want to give them relief. I want to support the private sector. I want to give them the kind of support they will need to be able to be productive and create the needed job that the youth and on every sector of the economy to drive. And that is the way to go, particularly of the current state of the economy that we have. If government is not giving relief to the private sector and consumers and want to stifle them of funds and deny them of growth, then the government itself will fail.
Okay. So, Mr. Martin, we know the introduction of betting tax and emission levy. The government made it clear to the Ghanaian public that it is a conditionality to IMF. That is one of the ways we can meet IMF conditionality. So if the current government is going to scrap off these taxes, how then how are we going to meet this conditionality of IMF? Don't you think we are going to end up defrauding or not meeting the expectation of the IMF?
Yes, IMF do not tell you what tax measure to undertake to raise revenue. They give you certain economic targets that you need to meet. A typical is the primary fiscal surplus. When you talk about primary fiscal surplus, what it means is that your revenue should be able to meet your recurrent expenditure, your day-to-day expenditure, outside interest payment, so that when you don't pay interest, can you pay for your expenditures? So if you can able to run a primary fiscal surplus, that is fine for the IMF. They don't tell you that go and impose betting tax, go and impose COVID levy, go and impose e-levy. They want to see how you can raise the needed revenue, which is not distortionary in nature, so that you can achieve the target of primary fiscal surplus. So it is how you go about it. So if the government decided to impose e-levy, the government decided to impose COVID levy, the government decided to impose betting levy, to be able to achieve the targets that are imposed in the IMF conditionalities, then they don't have a problem. Are you here with me?
Yes.
But the current government has looked at it. Have looked at the current measures, the tax measures that we have, and they believe they are distortionary. They are imposing high cost of living on the Ghanaian. They are denying the private sector the needed space to be able to grow. They are hampering productivity and employment. So they've looked at it and said, no, let me give those respites to them rather, and they will support the economy and the Ghanaian will be relieved of the many taxes they have to pay on a day-to-day activities.
Okay, I think we will just get into a discussion, but there's a few comments. Let me just read it. So this is from Obiba Wos. He said, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy New Year to you all. And this from Jewel Ni Otu. He said, good morning, and I wish you all the best. This from Godfred Adam again. He says, will the restoration of road tolls make a significant impact on the economy? I think this discussion, we'll have it another day. Yes, but if you want to touch on it, just some few seconds.
Yes, that's fine. I think that the road tolls, if you look at our current state of our roads, there's the need to support that. I'm looking at the way in which the government will go through it. You see, the removal of the road tolls helped to reduce traffic on our roads, and they ease our day-to-day movements. So that will help in productivity. Now, to impose it, I think they should introduce the tools as they were in the past. If it can be electronic and can be faster as you go and you just pass through, or if they can adopt a different measure by when you go to DVLA and you want to renew your roadway D and something, those levies are then added to it so that you can leave you paid once for all, and then we can leave the roads so that we can go and come very, very, very freely.
Okay. Thank you very much on this very issue. But I still have one more question in relation to this. But before that, how do you think the future of taxation of Ghana is going to be? Because if the current government is scrapping off taxes, now the e-levy, COVID levy, emission levy, and betting tax. How do you see the future of taxation in Ghana?
Now, research has shown that the tone that you set at the top in terms of governance and the way the government is, if the government is committed to the cause, the economic development of every economy, you will see that compliance to tax measures become very simple.
Okay.
The reason why in African economies that they continue to talk about low tax to GDP ratios is because the government, those governments over the period are engaged in many activities that are not in the interest of their people. So, but research has shown that when you use those resources, those taxes very, very well in the interest of the people, you see compliance become an easy thing. Yeah. So I was happy to listen to the finance minister that what he'll be looking at is the tone to set at the top. They will make sure that they are not wasteful. They are making judicious use of the resources that are coming to the coffers, so that they will invest this into the economy, so that every Ghanaian will partake in the national cake. If they see that compliance becomes an easy thing, what every citizen wants is hope, confidence in the government they have. If the government is making good use of those, building the schools, building the roads, building the hospitals, providing the good conditions of work, and the interest rates are low, inflation is low, they will definitely want to contribute to this cause. So in the IMF program, we have to achieve, I think, a tax to GDP ratio of 20% to GDP ratio. Yeah. If we are able to ensure compliance, and also set a tone at the top, I'm telling you that Ghanaian people will contribute to this cause, and we are able to achieve those tax to GDP ratio measures that we have.
Does it mean that because there's no tone at the top, that is why people are not willing to file their taxes?
I will not pay. It's normal of any human beings are rational. I get to the point. So they are rational and they make decisions on the basis of what they see. So if I see that my government, anytime I pay tax, there's no economic value that I'm deriving from this tax that I'm paying, do you think I will not find measures to evade those taxes? I get the point. Yeah. So whilst administratively and the GRA and the Ministry of Finance must ensure full compliance and reduce the level of administrative flaws that they have. Another thing that the central government must ensure that those revenues that they derive, are used in the best interest of the people. Another thing we have not done very well, and I think this government wants to look at it, you see, the Ghanaian economy is highly informal. The carpenters, the masons, the electricians that come to our home, we pay them 2,000 for works that they do, but they don't pay any tax. So they don't contribute meaningfully to our economic growth. So, but graduates that finish school and maybe doing somewhere and earn the same 2,000 elsewhere, they are paying the income tax. So those people are left out of the tax bracket. How do we identify them? We have to formalize our tax administration process, and GRA is the one that must lead that, to be able to identify these missing people who are also earners of income, so that they can also contribute meaningfully to our economic development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin Ohene Enim. We are so grateful having you. But before we wrap up, just a few words about Pinnacle Legacy Consult. Yes,
Pinnacle Legacy Consult is a top consulting firm. We have diverse technical expertise of people in finance, economics, accounting, HR, IT, and legal. I'm the managing partner. That's a pool of talent who have worked in various industries. When we come to your firm, we drive value. We drive operational efficiency. We want to add value. We see you as a partner. We want to change your business. We want to transform you. And when we leave, we want to leave the legacies that you have never, ever witnessed. So contact Pinnacle Legacy Partner for 360-degree business solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's Mr. Martin Ohen Enim, a managing partner of Pinnacle Legacy Consultant. It has been so insightful, so transformative. This discussion has been about the president's plans to abolish e-levy and other nuisance taxes, and we're looking at economic implication. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll bring you more on this issues, particularly about the economy, since a new government has taken over. I am Clement Yabankwe, your host, and do enjoy the rest of the show.